The night before the college application deadline, our close friends group chat suddenly exploded. Holy crap, Willow changed her application. Weren't you and George planning to apply to the Capital Academy of Fine Arts together? Someone tagged Willow. On the other side, her voice came through lazily, mixed with the sounds of a game in the background, like she had just woken up. Oh, you mean George? It's fine. He has my account and password. She paused casually, like she was chewing gum. If he notices I changed it, he'll just follow me anyway. Come on. After all these years, do you really think he can live without me? I stared at my phone, my fingertips turning ice cold. In the silent room, the sound of mechanical keys clicking felt painfully loud. Without checking the application system again, I quietly left the group chat. She didn't know. She could change her future for Makoto that easily. But deep inside me there had always been a sky full of stars untouched, sacred, and impossible to replace. The dream I fought for through endless sleepless nights and piles of sketches was never only about her. Willow's words felt like an ice pick stabbing straight into my chest. The Capital Academy of Fine Arts was the dream we promised to chase together one summer night back in 8th grade, when we stayed up painting in the studio and stared at the stars afterward. Both our families had carefully discussed every possible choice before finally deciding on that school. And now she changed everything like it meant nothing without even telling me. The group chat kept buzzing. Willow, are you really that sure George will check your account? What if he doesn't even notice? Willow let out a snort while another game reward notification rang in the background. Of course he'll check. I know him better than anyone. Then she added with complete certainty. He probably checks it like 800 times a day because he's terrified we'll end up at different campuses. Her voice carried the tired confidence of someone who never doubted being loved. Ugh, you guys don't get it. Have you ever had a simp attached to you since childhood? It's exhausting. The group chat filled with knowing laughter. Another friend asked carefully. But even if he finds out, are you seriously sure George would change his application at the last second? That's risky. The game sounds paused briefly before Willow replied sharply, clearly annoyed. Piss off. Has George ever spent more than 3 days away from me since we were kids? If he's not following me to Southern City Art College, where else would he even go? The person who first brought it up finally couldn't stay quiet anymore. Willow, isn't this kind of messed up? Shouldn't you at least tell George? Willow went silent for a moment before answering impatiently. I forgot. Okay? It's too much trouble to explain. Then she continued. And it's not like I changed it randomly. You guys know Makoto's family situation. He's nervous about going south alone. Having someone familiar nearby makes him feel safer. The chat suddenly became quiet. After a few seconds, someone finally replied, True. With Makoto's situation, it makes sense to have someone looking out for him. Another person added jokingly, Not like George, who's always hiding in the studio covered in charcoal dust. Put him next to Makoto and... Yeah, no chance. Someone else laughed. Giving up the Capital Academy just for Makoto? Willow's seriously loyal. All those half-joking compliments mixed with the sounds of her game froze me completely. My fingers curled tightly, nails digging deep into my palms. I wanted to scream at Willow through the screen, but my body felt stuck to the chair, unable to move at all. I don't know how long I sat there before finally shutting down the computer. When the screen went black, it felt like the last bit of light inside my heart disappeared with it. The room was locked in darkness, and all the bitterness I had been holding back finally overflowed. Willow's words kept replaying in my mind again and again. I still couldn't understand how she could abandon the Capital Academy of Fine Arts so easily after dreaming about it for so many years. We had spent countless nights painting until sunrise just to earn the scores we needed to reach that dream. Right before I saw those messages, I had still been excited about entering that future together with her. But I never imagined that the future I poured my soul into, the one I had painted for both of us, could be erased so effortlessly because of someone else's casual words. She changed it that easily, and even telling me about it somehow became too much effort for her. Was she really that afraid I would cling to her? If she was so scared of me holding on, then what about that night after our training camp ended? when we stood on the rooftop of the art studio and she kissed me. Her lips carried the faint smell of paint, and our hearts were beating so hard it felt like war drums in the silence. Did that moment mean nothing to her? Was it just some impulsive mistake made under pressure while I foolishly believed it was real? Something inside me suddenly cracked. The truth was, Willow had never been the only reason behind my choices. From elementary school all the way through high school, I followed her to the same schools and the same art studios, so everyone, including Willow herself, assumed I would always spend my life chasing after her shadow. But nobody knew there was another reason I wanted to attend the Capital Academy of Fine Arts, a deeper reason that had nothing to do with Willow at all. Even if she didn't go there, I still would. I quietly closed the sketchbook beside me, the one filled with all our shared inspirations, dreams, and promises, and I didn't even bother looking at the application system again. I had absolutely no intention of changing my future for her. She could follow Makoto to the ends of the earth if she wanted, but I had my own stars to chase, my own ocean to cross. Our paths had already split apart, so there was no point clinging to the past anymore. Once I accepted that, the suffocating pressure inside my chest strangely began to fade. It wasn't the end of the world. Dad always said that once your wings become strong enough, you have to learn to fly on your own. And as for that kiss, maybe it was nothing more than being scratched by a stray cat in some dark alleyway. Right after I splashed cold water on my face, Willow suddenly video called me. My mind wanted to ignore it, but my fingers accepted out of habit. "George, what's taking you so long?" she said immediately. "We're all waiting for you. Hurry up, same barbecue place as always. If you get here late, all the meat's gonna be gone." Behind her, I could hear the familiar noise of everyone laughing and teasing each other. It was our tradition after every exam to take turns treating the group to dinner, and tonight was Willow's turn. But I didn't feel like going anymore. "I'm not coming. You guys can eat without." Before I could finish, another voice suddenly interrupted, deep and smooth on purpose. "Will George not coming because he doesn't want to see me at your gathering?" It was Makoto. Before Willow could even answer, the others jumped in immediately. "Come on, Makoto, we're happy you're here. George is just, well, you know how he is. He can't stand seeing other good-looking guys around Willow. You'll get used to it." Part of Makoto's face appeared near Willow's screen, way too close to her. With fake consideration in his voice, he quietly said, "Willow, maybe I should leave. I don't want to make things awkward for you." Willow's expression instantly darkened. She grabbed his hand and said firmly, "Makoto, stay right there." Then she looked back at the camera, her voice cold and emotionless. "George, come or don't come. Your choice. We're not waiting for you." The call ended immediately, clean and decisive. Rage rushed straight into my head. Without thinking, I opened my phone and blocked Willow for the first time in my life. And once again, it was because of Makoto. Ever since Makoto transferred into our art studio during junior year, I had lost count of how many exceptions Willow made for him. Maybe girls really did have a weakness for quiet, brooding, ridiculously handsome guys. While I spent my days buried in charcoal dust and paint stains, Makoto always looked neat, fresh, and perfectly dressed, like even his drawing board was some expensive fashion accessory. Because of him, Willow and I argued countless times and even stopped talking to each other for days. There were moments when I genuinely thought she liked him, so I deliberately distanced myself from her. But every single time, Willow would come looking for me and say with complete certainty, "Don't overthink it. Makoto is just a friend. His family situation is complicated, so I'm helping him out. People say he's handsome, but behind his back they probably talk trash about him." And I believed her. Makoto's father had a terrible reputation that affected him too, so I forced myself to ignore how close Willow and Makoto were becoming. Willow had never lied to me before. If she said she didn't like him, then I trusted her completely. But later, in all the places I couldn't see, there were clearly so many moments between them that I never knew existed. And now she had changed her entire college application just for him, making all the trust one gave her feel like some cruel joke. My mind was still a mess when a WeChat notification suddenly appeared on my screen. "Wow, George finally grew a spine? Blocking me?" Just wait until you get home. It was Willow using someone else's account. Without hesitation, I blocked that account too. I glanced at the time, grabbed my backpack, and headed out. It was the final day, and our homeroom teacher had called everyone back to the studio to confirm their college applications. Traffic was terrible, and by the time I got there, Willow and Makoto were already inside. The seat next to Willow had always been mine, but Makoto was sitting there casually, playing with her paintbrush like he belonged there. When I walked in, he didn't even bother moving. He just looked at me with a subtle challenge hidden in his eyes. Willow acted like she didn't notice me at all, turning her head away with a cold expression, probably waiting for me to give in first like I always did. But this time was different. I didn't even want to sit near her anymore. I looked around and walked straight to the empty seat beside David, as far away from them as possible. "Everyone," our homeroom teacher said quickly, "there are only a few hours left before application submissions close, so make sure everything is correct. If you have any questions, ask now." Then she hurried off again. David was happily sharing some fresh gossip when I suddenly felt someone lightly smack the back of my head. "George!" Outside. Willow's voice came from behind me. I turned to look at her, then calmly looked away again and continued talking to David like I hadn't heard anything. Willow grabbed my shoulder and forcefully turned me toward her. "George, what's your problem this time?" she asked, clearly annoyed. "Aren't you tired of this already? We're adults now, and you're still doing the silent treatment. Don't you think it's childish?" Her brows were tightly furrowed, and her tone sounded exhausted. Forced to face her, I gave a small sarcastic smile. "Yeah, it is childish. And honestly, it's boring too. So stop acting like we're making up. I'm not buying it anymore." We stared at each other for a few seconds before she finally lost patience. "Fine. Whatever." Then she added with her usual sharp sarcasm, "If you want to act tough, go ahead. Just don't cry under your blanket later." She let go of me, and I turned back to David expressionlessly, thinking she had walked away. But suddenly both her hands landed on my shoulders again, turning me around a second time. This time her eyes were unusually serious as she looked straight at me. "Today's the last day. Double-check your application. Okay? Don't mess it up." She looked like she still wanted to say something else, but right then Makoto walked over holding a tablet. "Willow, I think there's a problem with my submission. Can you help me look at it?" Willow nodded immediately. Before leaving, out of pure habit like she had done countless times before, she reached out to mess up my hair. I turned my head away and avoided her touch. Her hand froze awkwardly in midair. Her eyes darkened slightly, but she still said, "Remember to go to the computer lab and check everything one more time. Don't be careless." I almost laughed coldly to myself. She probably thought that as long as she reminded me, I'd eventually check my application, realize she changed hers, and then follow her to Southern City Art College anyway. Of course, she was too stubborn to say it directly. And if she admitted she changed her plans for Makoto, she'd also have to deal with comforting me afterward, which was probably too troublesome for her. Good thing I had already decided not to turn back anymore. I glanced at Willow, who was completely focused on helping Makoto with his tablet, then grabbed David and left the studio. David could tell something was wrong with me and insisted on dragging me to one of his friend's birthday parties. Eventually, I gave in. After dinner, they took me to a newly opened motorcycle-themed bar. As it turned out, Willow's group was there too. We all shared a lot of mutual friends, so before long everyone ended up together in one large private booth. When Willow saw me, her expression stiffened slightly, but she didn't say anything. Not even a simple hello. I treated her like she didn't exist either. Later, while walking toward the restroom, I overheard Willow talking with one of her girlfriends around the corner. Her friend sounded like she was trying to reason with her. "Willow, maybe you should just tell George the truth. He's going to Beijing alone, and it's a completely unfamiliar city for him." But Willow sounded completely confident. "Relax. I already made sure everything's handled." Then she added, "He definitely changed his application already. He's only angry because I didn't tell him first." I froze where I stood. A moment later, footsteps got closer. The two of them turned the corner and saw me standing there. Willow immediately signaled for her friend to leave, then quickly walked over and trapped me against the dim hallway wall. George, talk to me. I rolled my eyes and tried to leave, but the moment I took one step, she grabbed me and pulled me back, trapping me between her arm and the wall. The faint smell of alcohol mixed with the familiar scent of paint and turpentine from her clothes surrounded me instantly. Out of instinct, I turned my face away. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other in silence. Then Willow was the first to give in. She let out a soft laugh, almost amused. Still mad? She asked lightly. I was going to ask you to come with me earlier, but you blocked me, so I couldn't. Then she added casually, the studio teachers were annoyed at you too, and I forgot to mention it. Her tone softened as she tried to coax me. All right. Stop being angry already. You checked your application, right? I kept my eyes lowered and said nothing. While we stood there in that strange, tense silence, a voice suddenly came from behind me. Makoto. Willow. David's calling everyone over for drinks. Then he paused slightly before adding, Oops, sorry. Were you two talking? His apology sounded perfectly timed and perfectly innocent. Sometimes I honestly wondered if Makoto had some kind of tracker on Willow because every single time she tried to talk to me alone, he somehow appeared out of nowhere by coincidence. I didn't want to get dragged into another scene, so the moment Willow turned her head toward him, I ducked under her arm and slipped away from where she had me trapped. But as I passed Makoto, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. I'm really sorry, George, he said softly, his voice carrying that innocent, pitiful tone again. I didn't mean to interrupt. You've been upset all day, and Willow's been feeling bad too. I didn't want to waste a second talking to him. I tried to pull my wrist free, but his grip only tightened harder, his nails digging painfully into my skin. I jerked my arm hard and finally broke loose. Makoto stumbled backward and caught himself against the wall, and almost instantly his eyes turned red like he was about to cry. Willow, is George still mad at me? Does he blame me for coming to your group hangout? His voice sounded weak and hurt. If apologizing will help, I'll apologize to him, okay? I really don't want you two fighting because of me. As he spoke, he actually bowed toward me. Willow immediately snapped. She pulled Makoto behind her protectively and glared at me. He's the petty one here, so why are you apologizing? Then she turned her anger fully toward me. George, why did you push him? You should be the one apologizing. Her eyes were cold as she continued. We're all going to the same place anyway. What's wrong with taking care of each other? Something inside me finally snapped. If you love taking care of people so much, I shot back coldly, then you two can keep taking care of each other. Then I turned around and walked away, ignoring the anger in her voice when she warned me from behind. George, that's enough. A while later, Willow and Makoto finally returned to the booth. Willow still looked annoyed, while Makoto seemed completely fine again, though there was a strange, unreadable look hidden in his eyes. Soon everyone started playing Truth or Dare. Besides David, it honestly felt like everyone else had forgotten I was even there, or maybe they never cared in the first place. In their eyes, I was nothing more than Willow's loyal simp anyway. Then it was Makoto's turn, and his dare was to slow dance with someone of the opposite sex. His eyes slowly swept around the room before immediately landing on Willow. In a playful voice, he whined softly, Willow, save me. Willow instinctively glanced at me, and the look in her eyes almost felt challenging. Then she slightly lifted her chin and said, Sure. Before, something like this would have made me lose control instantly. But now I didn't react at all. Makoto had studied street dance before, and with his sharp proportions and smooth movements, he looked naturally good dancing. I quietly picked up my beer and drank half the bottle in one go. Calmly, I watched him move along with the loud electronic music, his body brushing closer and closer to Willow's as the dance became more teasing and intimate. At first, Willow still wore that casual, careless smile, occasionally glancing toward me like she was waiting for me to get angry. But as Makoto's movements became bolder and the way he looked at her grew more intense, her posture slowly straightened, and eventually her eyes stayed fixed completely on him. It was like everything else around her disappeared. The atmosphere between them became thick with tension and unspoken heat. Then, just as the song ended, Makoto suddenly pretended to lose his balance. Willow instinctively reached out to catch him, but he used the moment to pull her straight into his arms. He was wearing a slightly loose shirt that night, and when he stumbled, the collar shifted as their bodies pressed tightly together in a position suggestive enough to make the entire room explode with cheers, whistles, and shouting. The noise practically shook the whole place. Willow's face instantly turned bright red, and she looked so embarrassed she almost seemed ready to hide. Makoto smiled victoriously, his arm naturally sliding around her waist as he pulled her face against the crook of his neck, shielding her from everyone staring at them. That kind of closeness, that shy sweetness between two people, those were moments that used to belong only to me. Even though I had already decided to let her go, seeing everything happen right in front of me still felt like an invisible hand was crushing my chest. It hurt so badly I could barely breathe. I couldn't stay there any longer. I finished the last of my drink, stood up, and walked out of the room without saying a single word. David followed me outside and stayed with me by the roadside, cursing nonstop until midnight. More than once he wanted to storm back inside and start a fight, but I stopped him every time. There was no point anymore. Willow and I were basically strangers now. I had no idea what happened inside after I left, and honestly, I didn't care. My body and mind felt completely exhausted. By the time I got home, it was already 11:50 p.m. Only 10 minutes remained before the application system closed. I collapsed onto my bed, drained of every last bit of energy. All the memories from all those years together suddenly came flooding back like a tidal wave, drowning every bit of reason I had left. The pain wrapped around me tightly like vines, heavy and suffocating. Then suddenly my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered, and Willow's slightly drunk voice came through the speaker, soft and unusually gentle. "George, don't be mad anymore, okay? Be good. Remember to change your application?" Her voice was sticky with alcohol as she continued softly. "Shanghai is nice. It's a big city. When we get there, I'll take you out painting." It was probably because she was drunk, because she sounded nothing like her usual self. Whenever we argued before, even when she was the first to give in, she always carried a subtle threat in her tone. Something like, "George, if you keep this up, I'm not going with you to that art exhibition next time." And like an idiot completely in love, I would always give in immediately. When you truly care about someone, how can you ever really let things fall apart between you? But this time was different. The softer and gentler she sounded, the colder my heart became. "Say something, George," she whispered. Haven't you always wanted to live somewhere warm? South City Academy's new campus stays like spring all year round. You'd love it there?" Then she continued rambling. "Beijing is too far away, and winters there are freezing. You wouldn't be able to handle it. During winter break, I'll go with you to the Forbidden City to see the snow." She kept talking endlessly, almost like she was trying to convince me, or maybe convince herself, that choosing South City Academy was somehow for my own good. I listened quietly the entire time until I finally couldn't hold it in anymore. My voice came out rough and cracked as I asked, "Willow, isn't there something you need to tell me?" Even I was surprised by how broken my voice sounded. Part of me thought that if she could just be honest now, maybe we could still save at least a little dignity between us. But after only a brief pause, she brushed the question aside. "Didn't you already figure it out? Why are you still asking?" She muttered drunkenly. "You've been upset all day over this? Who's really being petty here?" Then she continued trying to comfort me. "Come on. They're both good schools, and the major is something you love anyway. As long as we're together, does it really matter where we go?" She talked about everything except the one thing that mattered most, Makoto, and the real reason she changed her future. In that moment, the last tiny spark left inside me finally died out. I didn't want to hear another word. Before she could continue, I hung up the call and turned off my phone completely. I looked up at the clock. The second hand had already passed midnight. It was over. Fine. We could each go our separate ways and chase whatever we wanted. I turned off the lights and forced myself to lie down and sleep, but the moment I closed my eyes, all I could see was Willow. Willow smiling. Willow angry. Willow concentrating on her paintings. Willow kissing me on that rooftop. From childhood all the way through our awkward teenage years, every important memory in my life was filled with her. I never imagined things between us would end like this. Nights always make people weak, and all the strength I had during the day completely disappeared. Tears silently soaked my pillow before I even realized it. I don't know when I finally fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, it was already noon the next day. I turned my phone back on and immediately saw over a dozen missed calls and messages from unfamiliar numbers. Every single one of them was from Willow. I ignored them all. Then I opened WeChat and saw it had completely exploded with notifications. David had added me to a small group chat, and messages were flooding in nonstop. I tapped into the chat and saw that someone had shared a screenshot of a WeChat post made around 3 a.m. The group chat instantly erupted. Damn! Makoto finally made it official? How many couples is that now since the college entrance exams ended? Classic Makoto. That background is definitely a luxury hotel suite. And that pose too. Makoto's insane. Graduation really unleashed him. It was a screenshot from Makoto's WeChat moments. I clicked on it. The photo showed a girl lying sideways on a spotless white hotel bed with only part of her face and her messy hair visible. It was Willow. Even with just half her face showing, I recognized her instantly. My chest tightened painfully all over again. Makoto's caption made everything even more obvious and suggestive. 99 steps forward for your 1 step back. Worth it. Now it's perfect. The post was flooded with likes and comments, and every reply Makoto gave only made people imagine even more. All of Willow's close girlfriends were in the comments too, leaving heart emojis and teasing jokes like they already knew everything. My heart sank completely, so they had already gone that far. Which meant last night, while Willow was calling me and speaking softly to comfort me, she was actually in bed with someone else. How thoughtful of her. The pain hit harder than before, but strangely, mixed into all of it was a small sense of relief. Thank God I hadn't changed my college application for her. If I had, I would have become the biggest joke of all. I turned off my phone screen and forced my mind to go blank. Just then, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Willow was standing there with dark circles under her eyes and a paper bag from my favorite traditional pastry shop in her hand. I blocked the doorway to stop her from entering, but like always, she simply slipped past me sideways and walked straight into the living room as if she belonged there. She placed the pastries on the table and instinctively reached out to mess up my hair. I turned my head away to avoid her touch. "George, what's with the attitude?" she asked casually. No replies, no calls. "What, you want me to actually leave for the trip without you, and then have you cry about it afterward?" Her tone sounded teasing and familiar as she opened the pastry box and pushed it toward me. "Come on, stop being angry already. I waited in line for half an hour to buy these." Then she smiled slightly. "Eat. I know you've been craving them lately. After that, we can decide where to go for summer break. Tibet? Or maybe the beach." I didn't move at all. Willow picked up one of the pastries and tried to feed me herself, but I stepped back immediately. She sighed in frustration. "All right, Your Highness, I'll just leave them here." Then she continued naturally. "Didn't you always say you wanted to see the murals in the Gobi Desert? Summer vacation is long enough, we have time. I already called David and everyone else. We'll rent 2 vans, so it'll be lively." I shook my head coldly. "I'm not going. Please leave. I have plans later." Willow froze for a second before frowning deeply. "Why not? You've talked about this trip for years. Are you really skipping it just to prove a point?" She reached for my arm, but when I tried to avoid her, she grabbed my phone with her other hand instead. "Can you stop this already?" she snapped. "I'm hungover from last night and still dragged myself all the way here to make peace with you. I'm exhausted." I finally lost patience too. "Nobody asked you to come," I shot back. "And I don't need your peace offering." Willow frowned even harder. "Then tell me why you refuse to go." I looked at her and suddenly felt like everything was ridiculous. If you really wanted to plan this trip with me, You wouldn't have already chosen the people and the route before coming here and pretending I still have a choice. I paused before continuing bitterly. Besides, me not going is probably exactly what you want anyway. Makoto's going too, right? Why drag me along just so I can feel like a third wheel the whole time? Willow took a deep breath, and I could tell her patience had finally snapped. Yes, Makoto's coming, she admitted immediately. He's wanted to see Dunhuang for a long time. Then she continued irritably, her words spilling out without thinking. But he's not the only one going. Shouting's boyfriend is coming too. Can you stop obsessing over Makoto already? What has he ever done to you? His family hasn't had a proper vacation in years, and he saved up for this trip himself. So what if he comes? Dunhuang is huge. You really think there's no room for one extra person? I laughed bitterly and nodded. Fine, go with whoever you want. I'm still not going. Willow's temper exploded instantly. George, I'm literally giving you a way out right now. If you keep acting like this, it's just pathetic. Then she added coldly, I already booked your ticket. Tomorrow morning. Airport. Come or don't. I don't care. She slammed my phone down onto the coffee table and stormed toward the door without even hesitating. I followed behind her and shut the door the second she stepped outside. Willow was still furious, and just before the door fully closed, she snapped one last thing at me. With that horrible temper of yours, good luck surviving in the South with your future roommates. Then the door shut completely, cutting everything off. I walked back into the living room, picked up the expensive pastry box she brought, and threw the entire thing straight into the trash. Who needed it? Who wanted to stand awkwardly between her and Makoto like some useless background character? Even her delayed peace offering, wrapped in that subtle sense of superiority, felt painfully insulting. I sat down on the couch, and the more I thought about everything, the more suffocated I felt inside. In the end, I decided I needed to get away from everything for a while. People say it takes 21 days to build a habit. Maybe it also takes 21 days to finally break one. Mom wasn't comfortable with me going too far away by myself. So in the end, she only agreed to let me stay for a while at my uncle's place in Sea City. Besides, I had already submitted my college application, so there was nothing left tying me down anymore. I packed a few things lightly and booked a flight to Sea City that same evening. By 9 p.m., I was already sitting on my uncle's rooftop, feeling the sea breeze against my face while chewing on freshly grilled squid. The salty ocean air mixed with the smoky smell of the squid somehow made me feel a little better. On impulse, I posted a WeChat moment. Sea breeze plus grilled squid equals perfection. David and the others immediately flooded the comments, dramatically begging me to save them some food. The next morning, I was woken up by my loudmouth cousin. Sunlight was blasting straight through the window when he barged in. Bro, your phone. Someone called my phone looking for you. That girl. Willow. He handed me the phone, and I answered groggily. Of course, it was Willow. George, everyone's here already.